April 1918, the Crimson Wings took flight one last time. The world's greatest ace chased his final enemy across the sum skies. One bullet would end the legend and begin a mystery that still echoes today. This is the story of the final flight of the Red Baron, 1918's most famous aerial kill. Final flight of the Red Baron, 1918's most famous aerial kill. April 21st, 1918. The cold dawn broke over the Somme River in northern France. The Great War was nearing its end. But for the men who fought in the skies, danger remained as fierce as ever. Among them was Manfred von Richt, the feared Red Baron, Germany's deadliest ace, credited with 80 confirmed aerial victories. That morning, he would take off for what would become the most famous and mysterious flight in aviation history. His final mission. Richtofen was 25 years old, already a legend. To his enemies, he was a phantom in Red Wings. To his countrymen, a national hero. Calm, disciplined, and deadly precise. He had mastered the science of air combat like no one else. Yet, beneath the legend, he was exhausted. Months of war had taken their toll. The skies were no longer filled with duels of chivalry, but with mass dogfights and constant death. That morning, Richtofen led a patrol of Jasta 11, his elite fighter squadron. Flying his iconic Fokker Doctor, I painted a vivid crimson red. Among his wingman was his cousin, Wolfram von Richt, a young pilot with little combat experience. Determined to protect him, the Red Baron took the lead, a decision that would soon seal his fate. At 10:30 a.m. near the French village of Auxerchem, a formation of Australian RE-8 reconnaissance aircraft appeared in the distance. Richtofen dove toward them, followed closely by a group of British Sopwith Camels from No. 209 Squadron, led by Captain Arthur Roy Brown, a Canadian ace. The battle began in a whirl of smoke and chaos. Richtofen quickly singled out an enemy, camel piloted by Lieutenant Wilfred Wapme, who was on his first combat mission. May, realizing he was hopelessly outmatched, fled at full throttle, diving low over the river. The Red Baron gave chase, breaking one of his own strict rules: never pursue an enemy too far over hostile territory. Down low, at treetop level, the chase turned desperate. Villagers below looked up as the crimson triplane thundered overhead. Machine guns flashing, May zigzagged wildly trying to escape, while Braun dove steeply from above to protect his comrade. In seconds, the sky erupted in gunfire. Witnesses on the ground, Australian and British troops manning machine guns, opened fire as the red triplane swept across their lines. Then, suddenly, the Red Baron's aircraft faltered. It climbed slightly, then dipped and glided to a rough landing in a field near Auxerchem. When soldiers reached the wreckage, they found Richtofen still strapped to his seat, dead. A single bullet had passed through his chest, ending the life of the world's greatest flying ace. But who fired the fatal shot? That question would ignite one of the greatest debates in aviation history. Captain Roy Brown was officially credited with the kill. His report described diving onto Richtofen's tail and firing a burst before losing sight of him in the haze. The British authorities, eager for a morale-boosting victory, accepted this version. Brown became a hero overnight. However, ground evidence soon raised doubts. The bullet that killed the Baron entered from his right side, traveling downward, a trajectory inconsistent with Brown's attack from above and behind. Instead, the evidence suggested the shot came from the ground. Australian machine gunners along the Somme, particularly Sergeant Cedric Popkin and gunner W.J. Snowy Evans, were in the right position to fire as Richtofen flew low over their trenches. Both claimed to have hit the red triplane. Later, forensic analysis of the wound supported Popkin's position. The bullet had been fired from below and to the right, almost certainly from the ground. Even so, official records never changed. To the public, Roy Brown remained the man who killed the Red Baron, while to historians, the mystery endures a debate of pride, politics, and perspective. Regardless of who fired the shot, the impact of Richtofen's death was immediate. News of the Red Baron's fall spread rapidly across both sides. German soldiers mourned deeply, and even the Allies treated their fallen foe with respect. British officers organized a full military funeral for Rick Dufin on April 22nd, 1918, near the village of Burt. His coffin was draped in flowers, his body saluted by men who had once tried to kill him. As his plane was carried away, one pilot quietly said, "He was the bravest of the brave." For Germany, the loss was symbolic. The Red Baron had been more than a pilot. He was a legend, a beacon of national pride amid despair. His death marked the end of an era when air combat was still seen as noble and personal, not industrialized and brutal. In the months that followed, World War I's air war grew ever more chaotic. Newer, faster planes replaced the triplane. The romance of the skies was gone, but the legend of the Red Baron endured in songs, books, and the hearts of those who still believed in courage above all else. Manfred von Richthofen's life was short, but his legacy outlived the war. His tactics and discipline became the foundation of future air combat doctrine. His opponents, even in victory, honored him not as an enemy, but as a warrior who fought with honor to the very end. As the wind swept across the fields of the Somme, his red triplane lay shattered, yet his name soared forever higher. The man who ruled the skies had taken his final flight. The Red Baron's legend fell that day, but his spirit never left the skies. His death marked the end of one era and the dawn of another. Soon, a new generation would rise to defend freedom against overwhelming odds. Join us in the next episode, Battle of Britain, the roast's finest hour. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.